All right, welcome everybody. Have we got some great updates today? What one in particular, one especially in particular? You know, yeah, I love being right. I just love being right. I love having that prophetic view of the marketplace. I love calling it like I see it. Long time ahead of the markets. But if it would be arrogant if it weren't true. But in today's fintech update, Credit Karma was just fined $3 million for falsely advertising credit card approvals, pre-approvals especially. Right? What? So in my boot camp, in my master course, in all of my trainings, we talk about FACO scores versus FICO scores. FACO scores are any score that is not used by lenders in lending decisions. Well, on the front face, bold print, Credit Karma says, here are your credit scores. But when you go over to the right hand, just to the right of the Credit Karma Vantage scores, and you click, here's an offer for you, and you have it, and they're saying part of it is they say that you have a 90% likelihood of getting approved, right? Well, the problem was in the complaints that were filed with the FTC, there were only about 30% or 1/3 of the people who tried to get approved were approved, and of course it cost them an inquiry. Now, the problem with this is that FICO, in the approval process, FICO scores are used to determine whether or not they've hit a particular threshold. Remember how we say that FICO scores can deny you, but they don't approve you. So FICO scores have a threshold of, let's say, 720. This is an example. Every bank has its own threshold. So if you don't have a 720, you're going to get denied, which in this case, we'll swing around and bring it back to show how these folks were denied. But if you have a 701 or 721, so you get denied at 719. But if you have a 720 or an 820, it doesn't matter because your score's not used in the approval. Your 40 borrow behaviors are what are evaluated by lender software, and then your score determines your rate and term and amount they're going to approve you for, $5,000, $25,000, $50,000, etc. So what's happening is, and there have been several studies done, but the one I'm quoting, a study was done comparing FICO and Credit Karma score holders, right? Each one. And it was at least 30-point difference. In some cases, the difference between the FACO scores that were being published by Credit Karma and the actual FICO score was 30 to 60 point different. So if you're going to if you're on the Credit Karma website and you go over to their credit offer and you click apply and you fill it out, your 720 that is on your FICO, that's on your FACO score Credit Karma webpage may be 30 points higher than the actual credit that's going to be pulled using the FICO score. So that threshold is knocking out 66% of these people who hit apply now and submit an application. 66% plus are being denied instead of the 90% that Credit Karma is saying you have a 90% chance of being approved. I've been calling this for 2 years now, and it is now Credit Karma, in the proposed agreement between the FTC and Credit Karma, the company neither admitted to nor denied any of the allegations. They just said that they're willing to pay the fine. Now, $3 million for the 100 million users that they have, $3 million, that's 0.003 cents per user that it's costing them to lie to the public. So I have recent copies of the front page So we're going to see what happens to the front page of Credit Karma. We'll keep you posted. But this is not okay, you guys. This is straight BS. And I would use the entire expletive, but you don't pay me for my sailor language. You pay me for getting the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth. So bad juju, Credit Karma. And remember, I have challenged the CEO of Credit Karma for 5 years now to come onto my podcast and defend their manipulative and deceptive business practices, and of course, have not heard anything back. So I'm going to fire another one off just to address these facts that even the FTC has been is charging them with. So, more here later. All right. So another thing is that because of credit limits, because mortgages are becoming more expensive. I think we're up to the advertised rates in the Salt Lake Valley are somewhere between 5.5-ish%. Because the actual home loans are becoming more and more expensive, cash out people were trying to do cash out refis. That's where you'd get a new loan, take out the equity that you have had grow over the last couple of years, 2, 3, 5 years, and then they have that cash to pay down debt or invest or do whatever, because that money, that equity that's grown, has now turned to they've increased the size of the loan and cashed out those appreciation profits. Well, because it's becoming more difficult to get a home loan, HELOCs are becoming more and more popular as a way to access the capital. Now, I'm a super fan of HELOCs, especially since they are variable. So if you are in a high interest environment like we are now compared to a year ago, 2 years ago, if you're in a high interest environment, then every 6 months, generally speaking, you got to check your paperwork, but generally speaking, the rates trail behind a rate increase by 6 months, meaning that if it goes up a point on January 1st, 6 months later, July 1st, that's when they charge you more for using the interest is higher when you use your HELOC. So HELOCs are becoming more and more important to access the equity rather than these cash out refis. So we're going to watch that trend. It's because as it happened as we were coming out of 2008 and 2009, 2010, HELOCs, the appreciation in properties began to rebound after the crash, and people began to access them because you already have equity in that property, and getting a HELOC to access that is less expensive, generally speaking, and takes less qualification because you're already in that property. So we'll watch that trend as it unfolds. All right, another thing, overdrafts. This one is from American Banker. There's been a huge pushback by consumer groups, by us, by others, that we're a little bit different. That the fundability movement is a little bit different. But generally speaking, consumer advocacy groups have been pushing back that the overdraft fees, insufficient funds fees, the non-sufficient funds, those fees of $25 to $40, banks have been responding positively and have been reducing, and some banks have even completely eliminated overdraft fees. Problem is that is not far enough. So the update is that there is a lot of positive movement in dropping those overdraft fees. What isn't being addressed yet, and which we at Get Fundable, we're jumping up and down about, is that even though, let's say, Wells Fargo gets rid of overdraft fees, it doesn't change the fact, and here's where you and I need to be on the same page. It doesn't change the fact that while those fees may not hit your pocketbook, that overdraft is being counted against you in their internal performance data and may preclude you, may eliminate any opportunity to raise a limit if you have a Wells Fargo card in this example, or to get a new Wells Fargo credit instrument, including an auto loan, a mortgage, or a credit card, those much less business loans or lines of credit. They're not going to lend to you if you don't know how to manage your own money. So that's the importance of a checking account, a personal or business. We want to make sure to implement what we talk about in the fundabilitymastercourse.com. We want to implement the new zero strategy so that we never come close to zero. And as I've said almost weekly here for the past few weeks, because it's so important, make sure you turn off the use of an overdraft at all. You want to make sure that they reject any draft or charge against your checking account. This does not apply to credit cards. The overdraft, it eliminates the ability to punch through zero. If you have $25 in your checking account and you do a $30 gas pump purchase, we want them to reject that transaction. It is better for you to be embarrassed or have to borrow money to fill your gas tank than it is to eliminate any banking opportunities and future credit extensions in the future by having an overdraft. So you're never going to hear me not harp on this one. So that overdraft fees, banks are collecting significantly less money from consumers who overdraw their accounts, and they have not found a formula for replacing the lost revenue. Those fees are down at least 11%. Okay, and then you may have heard this in your news outlets or otherwise, but I want to reinforce it. The Fed is making sure that the higher interest rates are going to be until at least they're saying from the Fed chair, Jerome Powell, is going to be somewhere in the neighborhood of 4% by the end of next year. So they're not going to reverse course on rates until inflation has been placed firmly in check. And prime, remember, there's the Fed overnight rate, and then there is prime, which is higher still. And the Fed overnight rate is how much the Fed lends a certain amount of fund that has to be paid back the next day. It's only a certain a period of time that you can keep the money, that the big banks can borrow money from the Fed, and then they have to pay it back. That overnight rate looks like to hit somewhere in the neighborhood of 4% by the end of next year. And then prime, of course, is higher than that. So I don't know what to tell you, folks. Now business at Get Fundable it's really important, and we find that when you're at near zero overnight Fed rates, when people have access to super inexpensive money, that fundability may not necessarily be the biggest priority. But we're finding more and more and more borrowers are saying, I need the lowest possible rates. So there's a big difference between 5.5%, 7.5%, 9.5%. And so we're finding that a lot of people are hearing the fact that these rates are not going to come down. The cheapest money out there is still expensive. So if you're looking for the lowest possible rates from credit cards, bank loans, bank lines of credit, then you need to check out Get Fundable, and our cornerstone offering is 100% is at www.fundabilitymastercourse.com. Look on your screen if you're watching, fundabilitymastercourse.com. All right, you guys, you have a spectacular rest of your day. We'll see you next Tuesday at 3:45 Mountain Time, and we'll see what banks are getting into trouble, what Credit Karma is doing to stay out of trouble next time. We'll see you. Be well.